Welcome to the Skill Lessons module of Case Study 101 with me, Ramya. In this video, we'll be learning about the 3 skills required to master case studies. Further on in this module, we will be applying these skills to case study questions from the board exam sample paper. Let's see what are these 3 skills. The 3 main skills required to solve any case study would be read to understand, analysis, and evaluation. I will be using few case studies in this video to illustrate these skills, but I will not be solving these case studies in this video. At the end of the video, if you want to, you may come back to these questions and attempt them. Let's look at the first skill, read to understand. This is the ability to be able to read through the text of the passage and the 5 sub-questions that follow it while grasping and understanding the information given. It is important you understand the context of the information in the quickest time possible. Let us look at a few aspects of reading that you need to be mindful about. As the text is meant to assess various aspects of understanding, the length of the questions tend to be longer than the others. The larger size of information is also there to assess your reading and comprehension at the same time. Let's look at an example here. This is an example of a question based on Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium. You can see that there is some text over here along with the figure. The question also has little more text here with another figure. And then comes the questions, which in itself are quite long. As you can see, the text of this passage was around 3 slides long here. This is something which can take quite a long time to read. There is a lot of information, lot of input, and you need to be able to, within a short period of time, grasp the right content from this information. Next is the use of distracting language. As you could see, the question included many details and unusual language that was distracting you from extracting the main point out of the text. This tests the ability to filter out the actual information which is required. Let's look back at the same question again. You would see that this passage initially, which talked about what the stadium is about, what is the capacity of the stadium, what was the year in which the stadium was used for the Commonwealth Games. All this was not relevant for you to answer the sub-questions. You may assume that the 60,000 people and the year 2010 may have some relevance to the question, but in fact it does not. The actual content which is required is just this figure and the last sentence of this passage, which says that the construction of the shooting range is such that angle to the center is 90 degrees and the radius of the stadium is 180 meters. All the remaining text is there just to distract you. And this is something that you need to be careful about. Another thing which you need to be looking at is non-continuous texts. When we talk about reading, it does not necessarily mean only reading continuous text passages. Non-continuous texts such as graphs, charts, and tables also provide reading situations. For example, you may have a histogram which shows you shoe price range versus number of shoe types. So there is some information which you need to read out of this. This also is a situation where you need to develop the ability to read and understand relevant information from the graph. You may have a graph of a polynomial in this way, where you need to read some information of the x-axis and the y-axis, and you need to look at this labeling which has been provided. There may be also situations where you get a figure based on probability. Here in this case, you need to understand that your sample space are the digits from 2 to 9. So you see here that non-continuous texts also may require the reading skills which we were speaking about. The next skill that is required is analysis. This is where you apply your knowledge of facts and recall your mathematical properties and mathematize the problem. In the context of case studies, there are a few challenges involved over here. You may have open-ended questions. These are questions where a fixed or determined outcome is not visible easily. And the question seems to be of one concept, but actually may be of another. I'll show you an example here. See, this is an example of a question based on road rollers. Now, if you think about the type of questions that you're used to, you know that you have road roller type questions coming in with respect to the volume of cylinder, or you also get these questions with respect to areas related to circles, where you need to see how much ground is leveled by this roller. There you would be using the circumference of the roller. So these are the type of questions that we are used to seeing when it comes to a roller. So this is an assumption that we are making when we see this question. However, the question was followed by this further text, where it is talking about the production of rollers in every year. And if you look at the questions that follow, it asks you about the company's production in a particular year. So in the beginning, when you look at this question and the figure, it seems like it talks about surface areas in volumes chapter or areas related to circles chapter. But in fact, this was from the arithmetic progressions chapter. So this is an important aspect of analysis which you will need to remember, that you cannot pre-assume by looking into the initial lines what the passage is about. The next is out-of-box thinking. We have already discussed about out-of-box thinking previously. And we saw that how you need to get out of your box of pre-assumptions which we are talking about in order to solve the questions. Maybe a deviated way of thinking would help you here more than an ordinary way of thinking. The solution of the questions may be very simple, but what happens is there is tricky, twisted language which is used in the question, which confuses you. And that requires you to take a different approach to arrive at the solution. This is an example of one such question. Here again, there is some long text in where they talk about pyramids. There is an image along with the same, followed by a formula which looks completely new and completely out of context and may put you off over here. There is also a polynomial expression in the same question. So here you may get confused by looking into the material given in the question. And this is where you need to put your thinking cap on and look at the options, look at the questions, and look for clues to answer this question. The out-of-box thinking which you can apply here is try to use the questions in itself to get an answer to the remaining questions and to get an understanding of the passage. If you look here, this particular question, if area of base is 576 square units, What is the side of the base? This question does not require any information from the passage except for the fact that the base is a square base. With that information alone, you would get that the side of this base is square root of 576. What's square root of 576? That's 24 meters. And once you find the side of the base, you would see that finding the height becomes easy and finding the surface area becomes easy. Why? Because the formulae are already given. You already have the formulae for this once you find the side, which is A. Also, the ratio of length of side to height becomes easy once you answer questions 2 and 3. The first part of the question uses this polynomial, and that's one of the lengthier questions over here, which we need not actually solve since only 4 has to be attempted out of the 5 sub-questions. So analysis also involves selection of the 4 questions which you're going to attempt in the exam. Let's look at the last skill, which is evaluation. Evaluation means that after you read the passage, understand it, and analyze the various ways you can arrive at the solution, you actually do your calculations and select a correct option from the choices given. There are a few tips I would like to share in context of evaluating. Attempt the easiest or least time-taking 4. During the course of your analysis, you may find that some questions take more time to attempt compared to the others. Please spend your time on the easiest 4 of the 5 questions. There are no marks for steps. Please make it short. You need not write too much of calculations. You can do this in your rough work. It's just 1 mark questions here, and the mark is only for the correct answer choice. Eliminate the wrong options. This will definitely help you arrive at the right answer when you're stuck. There would be some options which would be obviously wrong to the context of the question asked. So please mark those first. And there's no negative marking. If at all you find yourself unable to answer a particular question, please go ahead and guess. You're not going to lose any marks. And on the other hand, you have a 25% chance of getting the right answer. So that's it about the introduction to the skills that you require. Now you need to start using these skills and attempting actual case studies that have come in the sample paper. So let's start solving. All the best. Thank you.